Please Morgana, I am 2 levels down and have been soloed 3 times. I just want 1 blue buff. Hahaha, I can push him under my tower. This is sure to get me that juicy free shutdown gold. This is just the break I need right now. Oh fuck, he has breastplate. Hahaha, surely I've got him this time. Oh fuck mum, please help me. I've been a good boy this year and not played a single mage solo. Well, it's been nice knowing you guys. Catch you in the grayscale.
You were the chosen one! It was said that you would destroy
mages,
not join them! Bring balance to the
meta,
not leave it in darkness!
So I know I'm a little later to this topic than most, but hey, I'm still not as late as high-res balance changes to fix major problems in the game, am I right? The solo lane meta has basically been infested with mages lately, and as someone who has personally been extremely vocal about how annoying and boring mage solos are to fight, I thought I'd throw my hat in the ring with all the other creators and even devs that have talked about this topic recently. So I've basically broken this video down into 5 key aspects of why mage solos are seeing so much play right now. I won't be talking much about how unfun mage solos are, as I'm sure you get the message at this point. This video will more so try to explain why this meta is happening, not why it's bad. So first up is a very simple one. Mages get up to 60 free power just for existing. This used to be 40, but a change in 10.7 when mages were being pushed out of mid by hunters and assassins bumped it up to 60. Granted, this is 20 at level 1 and scales up like all the other class passives do, but that's still a pretty ridiculous amount of power. That's just barely less than your average tier 3 mage item's power at level 20. With the removal of bruiser items at the start of this year, a lot of warriors have had a really hard time keeping up with clear pressure from mage solos through this free power. Granted, it would be way more insane if it was free physical power because of the 100% versus 20% power contribution to basic attacks, but anyone who plays a lot of solo will know that even a tiny bit of power from early game items can make a huge difference to your PvE potential. The one who has this power is the one who gets all the totems and silver buffs off of that lane pressure and is at a massive advantage in terms of hitting breakpoints on items and abilities like ultimate levels. And right now, mages almost always have that going for them, partially because of this free power they were given. I do think this should be reverted back to 40, but clearly this isn't the only problem here, as mages themselves are being pushed out of their own main lane by assassins. Granted, this has calmed down a bit recently, but that could be a byproduct of my next key factor, breastplate. More specifically the determination glyph of it, but the base item to an extent as well is a little bit overtuned. This item is pushing assassins back out of the mid lane almost on its own, as any mage or even guardian mid that buys this item is basically invincible to a set, Kama, Pele, whatever else is diving them and ambushing on rotations because they win that 1v1. Buy a breastplate, they no longer win that 1v1, or at the very least you don't die to them instantly if you get caught out. All of what I just said there applies to solo lane in the same way, just switch assassins with warriors. A mage building this item in solo makes them practically invincible to any warrior in their lane, while simultaneously making it so said warrior can't rush breastplate themselves because they're facing a magical. This completely shifts the dynamic of the lane from what should be true, the warrior bullies out the mage once first item defense comes online, to what is actually true at the moment. The mage bullies out the warrior because their first item defense is ridiculously broken and they force their opponent into magical defense, which is absolute shit at the moment. Can the warrior kill the mage before getting breastplate or wait it out for team fights? Yes, but that requires a very skilled and precise player to navigate through the laning phase that is extremely stacked against them if they're facing a mage. 2 players of equal skill level, but one is on a mage and the other a warrior. The warrior is immediately at a large disadvantage for most of the game, at the very least most of the laning phase. But hasn't this sort of always been true? Breastplate and mages have always been a thing. Well, sort of, but not exactly. The mage power buff in 10.7 and the breastplate buff in 10.10 sort of pushed this over the edge into where mage solos are just the best thing you can play at the moment if you want to win games. So my third thing to quickly mention is that most warriors are in a really bad spot at the moment, while just a handful perform extremely well. These are mostly warriors with either free power in their kit or they abuse items with free power really well. which further explains why the free mage power is such a big issue. Are Amaterasu, Wukong, and to a lesser extent Herc all strong right now? Yes, but when was the last time you even saw a Gilgamesh, or a Chak, or a Kukulkan, or a Shiva, or a Mulan? There are just so many warriors that have been all but dead for the entire season, and it's no surprise that people have finally just given up and said, fuck it, if you can't beat them, join them, and started playing mages instead. They out-farm you, out-secure you on totems and silvers, out-poke you for most of the game, and are pretty much unkillable with one item because warriors have no damage right now. Even in the late game, it's hard to find value on a warrior because you die maybe 1 or 2 seconds slower than just a mage with breastplate because of how much % pen is in the game and the diminishing efficiency on protections. So honestly, mages aren't even worse for teamfights a lot of the time, especially if you can plan your comp around having less frontline like they can in the SPL, where we've been seeing an absolute metric ton of Mage Solos lately. So that was basically parts 3 and 4 rolled into one. Mages have infinite free pressure, better farming and secure than warriors, while a lot of warriors fester in unviability and just a handful shift the perception into thinking all warriors are OP. This has pretty much been this way for many years in Smite. There are always like 5 or 6 warriors that are really strong and shift the entire perspective of the class when most of them are just festering. But my 5th and final aspect of this video is to run counter to all I've said here, just a little bit to cover my ass. I do think part of this is all overreactions and late discoveries. When a meta takes hold in the SPL, it often sticks and spreads to other teams to the point that the whole league is either doing that strategy or figuring out something that counters it. Then the high-end ranked players copy SPL, the intermediate players copy the high-end players, and the casuals copy that. It basically just trickles down from the SPL, which is a very different environment to Little Timmy's Gold 5 ranked games. There's a lot more counterpicking and metas within metas in the SPL compared to just random pubs, and I do think there's a little bit of the player base overreacting to something and just saying it's completely uncounterable. Agro put this well on an episode of the Backliners recently. If we completely shut down patches for an entire calendar year, would Mage Solos be the only viable meta picks for that whole time? The answer is clearly no. Something would show up to counter it in that larger time frame. But I will give some pushback here in that what the player base thinks is strong becomes the meta, not what is actually strong. And that meta is what people experience in the game. If that meta is not fun, the game is not fun, and changes should be made to make it more fun. I think that's a pretty reasonable statement overall, and so I do think some changes to resolve this at the very least before Worlds will be necessary. If you want to make smaller changes and see where the meta goes because internal numbers say Mage Solos aren't that good, then fine. But I do think something needs to happen because the solo meta at the moment is extremely dull and the long-standing issues warriors face remain basically the same. But that's all I've got for this one. Definitely let me know your own thoughts down below on how you feel about the Mage Solo meta. Is it fun, horrendous, real, or fake? I'll definitely be reading comments on this one as it's a very interesting topic. But yeah, catch you guys in another one later on. Have a great day, and peace out, you nerds.